All right, listen, I might be calling out you with this, but if you have put on unwanted fat over the years after the summers, events, vacations, and you haven't been seeing the results in your composition, things aren't fitting right, you're not looking how you look, you're not liking how photos are being taken and kind of how you're looking in them. If you are serious about change, I'm here to make it happen for you. And I want to run a little mini test group because this is my specialty. I'm looking for 4 people, male or female, so if you fit this description, who have 20 plus pounds of fat to lose, who are serious about seeing change over the next 90 days, who want to replace that fat with 10 pounds of new muscle to really just become the next level version of themselves, the 2.0 version of you in a healthy and sustainable way. I will give you the instructions, everything you need to see results in a better and more healthy and sustainable way once again. So if this is you, message me the keyword lean and jack. That's our group. So if you're wanting to get lean and jack, this is for you. Let's make this change. Transformations are fully guaranteed. So if you're serious, you have nothing to lose. 4 spots. If this is you, message me on Instagram, that keyword lean and jack. My Instagram is at Colossusfit, COLOSSUSFIT. And I look forward to transforming you and you being my next success story. Now into the episode. Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all Happy podcast. I am your coach and host, sound producer, hype man, Josh, here with
your boy, KG, and I'm in the hizzy.
And this is Motivation Monday. We hope you tuned in with us last week. It was absolutely awesome to still film an episode at the cottage. And something that's really been on our mind is just getting things done in imperfect situations and finding solutions. And obviously we'll dive into that way more, but we really appreciate you, of those of you who tune in with us every week, Monday and Thursday. We're always there for you and we want to be consistent because we don't want to let you down. We want to be that source of motivation on Mondays, and we also want to be a great knowledge source to where you can level up and grow on Thursdays. So if you haven't made it a habit to make sure to tune to every episode, you're missing out. And for those of you that have, it really means a lot. Appreciate the messages in the DM, seeing the changes that have taken place. I know this podcast, it's been absolutely fantastic. We've received messages that some people were on the verge of suicide, and it sounds crazy, but it's amazing to know me and Kyle had a part in showing them some light, some movement towards self-improvement, and really seeing them just improve and grow and see some hope because of that. Seeing people lose hundreds of pounds, obviously being able to help people through coaching. And even those of you that we've just given you a quick tip or hack, absolutely awesome. So I just want to thank you for tuning in today and making an investment in yourself, your growth, and your motivation. But this is Motivation Monday. It used to be Mailbox Monday because we like to answer your questions first and foremost. And we're bumping into a new month here. So we're actually recording this July 31st. This will be out early August, obviously on the Monday. But I think the first question really just hits home. And that is, what advice can you give me on goal setting? And I love goal setting. I've spoken about this before. I'm really excited to dive into it again because I'm constantly trying to improve how I do it and get better with it. And to me, goals are your compass. So instead of just not knowing where you're going, or your GPS, if you will, roaming around hoping you find your way, having a compass, having a map, knowing the steps you need to take is so important. And you can really break it down. If you just start from beginning to destination, it seems insane. It can seem really hard. We drive to Florida sometimes. It's over 20 hours. It seems crazy. But when you start to chunk that down a little bit and you're like, okay, day 1, I need to make it to North Virginia. And you're like, okay, what does that look like? How many stops is that? What's day 2? Where do I go from Virginia? Here I go. And like, it makes it a lot easier. And if you look at your fitness journey in this way, makes things so much better. So if you're someone who's like, all right, I'm going to push myself, I'm going to apply myself, I'm going to do that hard thing, hire a coach, and finally see this change I've always wanted, 90 days, you know what you can achieve. 20 pounds of fat, 10 pounds of muscle, a new mindset. And just like that, you become the 2.0 version of you. And from there, where people will go wrong is they'll say, I've hit my goal, I'm just going to loosen up, and they'll revert slowly to where they were. And if you're listening to this, I almost guarantee you've lost weight, you've been in better shape previously, you've had success, but it didn't stick. Something happened. And that's where a lot of changes aren't beneficial if you're doing those quick short-term solutions or you're not thinking past that. And that's why we love the conception of zooming out. And even I've been thinking a lot lately about how important the process is, the journey is. Like, there is never a point you've made it. Once you climb that hill, you look in the horizon, you're like, oh, there's another mountain over there I got to climb. And then you once again rinse and repeat. And that's part of life. And there won't be a point where you'll sit down and say, I've made it. I look exactly how I want to look. I have all the exact amount of money I want to have. Like there's billionaires, there's people that are the 10th richest in the world that say, I wish I was the first. Like comparison is a thief of joy. And we've spoken about this before. So it's a great reminder to focus in on your journey and your journey specifically. And when you set goals for that, it's a lot more healthy and it's a lot more motivating. So what I like to do personally with my goal setting, I like 1 year horizons the best. I know some people really like 3 year horizons. Some people like 5 year horizons as their big guiding lights. I've challenged myself. So I have a lot of goals by 30 I'd like to achieve. I'm 28. I'll be 29 in October. So to me, that's like far enough away, but also motivating enough for me to set some more macro goals. And I have a harder time really thinking to what life will look like at 40 or 50, but it depends on who you are. If you're a rigorous planner, you can absolutely go about it that route. But for me, that's reasonable. And then I work back from there. So these big goals are so good, and they should be goals that scare you, that people laugh at, that it seems ridiculous for you to get to. But then here's where we'll start to break down to more micro goals. From here, I like to go into my year goals, and that's what I think I could realistically achieve in this year. And then just a little bit past that, maybe 25 to 50% more than I think is capable, because I'd rather fall short of a big goal than set a really small goal that doesn't challenge me, that doesn't inspire me, that doesn't move me, because I'm not actually going to put work into it. It needs to be a goal you want. And when you actually spend time doing all these great exercises we mentioned, as journaling, spending time on a long walk, thinking about what you really want, 7 layers deep, all of this will provide more clarity. Setting SMART goals, of course, like this really does help a lot. But I wanted to focus in on time frames for this. So once you have those goals that inspire you, it's like, what can I do in a year that would actually get me closer to this goal, that I would say, wow, I've actually taken steps to make that happen. And then within those years, you can break that down into a month. And what I like to do when I set my monthly goals, I look at my goals by 30 and I look at my 1 year goals and I say, okay, what does my month need to look like? What was last month? Am I behind or ahead? If I'm super far behind, you don't want to set some crazy goal that isn't realistic unless you feel you have a path or plan to make that happen. And oftentimes you can say, my goal was to have shredded abs by the end of the year, let's say. Then I think, okay, well, I didn't do any ab training. I skipped all my workouts. I only did 1 or 2 workouts and I didn't track my food at all. I'm not actively working towards that goal. And it wouldn't be realistic for me to say, okay, well, I'm going to do 10 workouts a week now. I'm going to track everything, weigh and measure it. Like, it's just such a push from where you were. And you might need to hit that board and say, I'm going to go to my fundamentals. It's going to be 3+ workouts. My food is going to be tracked and I'm going to start there. And like doing something extra would be too much, but that'll put you back on the path. And then you can grow and develop more towards that yearly goal. And if you're behind, that's okay. Like, you can't expect your goals to be absolutes. Sometimes things will change, your life will change, your actual goals and wants and desires will change. But doing this is more of a fun way of gamifying it. And it really makes it a lot better. And when you actually have goals, like I said, that are deep and true to you, it's a big difference if you say, I just want to look a little better for a wedding in 30 days. That's not going to be enough to make you win those hard decisions. Where if a doctor said, hey, if you're overeating, you're going to die in 6 months, you would not overeat. You would be like so dialed in, you'd have this focus. But there's a big difference there. And even like, what is your true why? Do you want to walk your daughter down the aisle? Do you want to, whatever it may be, like be there to be with your kids or your grandkids, or look super good because that's what makes you feel good? Whatever inspires you, you need to lean into it. But I find start macro, go into micro, and then really just spend some time reflecting and adjusting. That's why every month I'll do a little review. I'll keep stats and metrics to really hold myself accountable towards it. And we'll do things too, even when we're not prepared for it. So we've been wanting to do a DEX every 6 months. We're even debating challenging that and doing it every 3 months, which is a little extreme, but it was good. Me and Kyle both got our own versions of a wake-up call yesterday, which was phenomenal. And I love that, because without that, it's so easy to be blissfully ignorant and just assume, oh, it's so great. If you never look at your finances and you're trying to save money and you just think, oh, I'm saving so much money, chances are you will not have saved money. You'll be in a deficit. If you feel like, oh, I'm just eating good, but you're not tracking, chances are you're overeating, and then you don't go on the scale, and then all of a sudden, boom, 5, 10, 20 pounds. So that's where being really realistic and having checking mechanisms and accountability in place is so essential, because it makes it way easier to get it done. Even with this lean and jacked promo we're doing, this test group, I'm going to be there to hold you accountable to it, to see you through it, to make sure you're moving from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4, like I said earlier, in a reasonable, healthy way, to make sure we're on track and see that through, to take the guesswork out, to actually make you be serious enough to succeed and see it through. But I love goal setting, so obviously I spend a lot of time on it, but it's something I think about a lot. And don't just sit down and write your goals in 1 minute. Like even all today, I've been thinking of them. As we go into August, I'll write them down tomorrow, but it does take quite a lot of thought and reflection. And when they're things you actually care about, goes a long way. Past that, I journal about them every morning. I read over all my goals for the month, the year, as well as by 30 every single morning, because I find it really guides me. And if I go to make a dumb decision and I'm like, this is really against where I'm trying to be, it's easier for me to not make that dumb decision and to really think things through. So I know Kyle has his own things here, but this was a question I was really excited for, and I hope that helped.
I would say that this is probably one of the most underrated parts of your journey. And I find a lot of times when we talk to people, they're just not clear on it. And I heard this from Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins years ago. And I think it was actually just Dean. He was saying in one of his podcasts, he said he would have a lot of conversations with people, ask them what they want, what their goals are, and they would list out all the things that they don't actually want, right? So they would say, I don't want to feel like garbage anymore. I don't want to have bad relationships. I don't want to, have bad sleep, and I don't want to be overweight. And then he would be like, well, what do you want? And the main point there was he said that a lot of people just know what they don't want, but they don't actually know what they do want. And I thought that was so powerful, because I find that a lot of times people are just very unclear and they're focused more on like the negatives, and it can be motivating. So don't get me wrong to have that as like on the top of your head, but becoming laser focused on what you do want and it coming from truly you is the best way to just focus on goal setting. And I know a lot of times people will have goals that they've been told they should have or that don't actually light them up, and there's a reason why you're not going to succeed within that, because it doesn't have a deeper meaning to you. And I like that Josh spent time on the 7 layers deep and focusing on your deep why, and I thought that was so powerful. And even myself, as I started goal setting today, with the news of the DEXA scan, we'll jump into this after, but I started goal setting on where I wanted to be for the next one. But the biggest thing is it's so easy to write down these goals and be like, okay, cool, let's go. But without an action plan, there's nothing really there. So for like the leg development that I want to essentially develop over the next the leg improvements I want to see over the next few months, I wrote out 4 to 5 things that I'm going to start to make a change on and immediately implement. Like not wait a day, not wait a week. Like as soon as that next workout took place, we started making those changes. And I know a lot of times people will say they want something, and I just want to spend time on this because, someone says, hey, my next DEXA scan, I want to be 5% lower, 10% lower. But then you say, okay, so what's the game plan? There's literally nothing that's going to be changed. Next DEXA scan comes around, boom, we're in the same spot, if not worse. And I can be guilty of this with different things in the past where I didn't want it bad enough. I didn't spend time planning enough and implementing, and then I'm in the same spot as before. And as they say, if nothing changes, nothing will change. And I think that's such a powerful thing to think about, because obviously setting goals is great, but without those action steps and that game plan, which will then be followed by execution, you're just going to be someone who says, hey, my goal is to, accomplish this, and actually put nothing towards it. And yeah, it sounds fun. It's cool to talk about with your friends saying, hey, I want to be 5% body fat and I'm going to lift 400 pounds, but you're just someone who says you're going to do something and you never actually do it. And I know a lot of people that do this, unfortunately. So it's just a reminder to set those goals, but to actually implement. And I know Josh spent a lot of time talking about goal setting, so I wanted to just really remind you here not to be a talker, but to be a doer.
Yeah, and if you're moving in the right direction, even if you're moving like a turtle, the turtle and the tortoise and the hare example, too many people try to be the hare with their journey and they just get crazy and they get sidetracked and they bounce back. And like consistent progress is the best. As long as you're moving in the right direction, it's not to say you won't have little slip ups or mess ups, but as we said, I don't mind failing goals, and the more you get comfortable with the failure, the better you get, because it just shows you, okay, like something's not working. What can I change to actually make sure I see it through? These are all things we love helping our clients with too, because it's just what clearly inspires us. You can tell our passions here. So once again, if you're serious about losing that fat, putting on muscle, doing what you know you're capable of doing, Let us do all the hard work and let's succeed together, and we'll hold you accountable to it. 4 spots for that case study, lean and jacked. And me and Kyle are both doing this ourselves. So you'll be going right alongside us, which is going to be a lot of fun. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into our quotes as we like to do. And like I said, this was on my thought, so I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. But my quote is, the bad workouts are the most important ones. It's easy to train when you feel good, but it's crucial to show up when you don't feel like it, even if you do less than you hope. Going to the gym for 15 minutes might not improve your performance, but it reaffirms your identity. It's not always about what happens during the workout. It's about becoming the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. And I love this because it's so easy to have this all or nothing mindset, and it's really tempting to be like, I can't be at the perfect gym. I can't do my full workout. I'm not going to waste my time doing a 45-minute workout. Or even for me, I was at the cottage. There wasn't a gym there. So I would just do I'd mess around on the paddleboard. We were kind of being silly with that. But I was like, I'll go swimming. I'll do 100 push-ups. I'll do 50 pike push-ups. I'll do all these different things. And it's so far off what I do in the gym, and it's not actively going to push me closer to my goals. But I think even for me, it really reaffirmed my identity of you can still get stuff done. I felt phenomenal after I did it. Really reaffirmed that I like doing it and why I like doing it. And I think more often than not, the days you don't want to do it and you show yourself you can. Even today, we posted a lot of stories about it, but I got just over 4 hours of sleep, wasn't feeling it, but we were so inspired from the Dexes yesterday. I'm I'm going to feel so good when I get through this. Crushed legs, gave it all we got, 10 out of 10 intensity. We have all our clients track intensity. So if you're a client, you'll know all about those intensity scales. But that was a true 10, which was absolutely fantastic and fun. And I feel so good because on a day I didn't feel like doing it. It was one of my tougher days. I got a little bit of help from caffeine, but I still got it done. And you show yourself that you're going to win. Everyone wants to do it when it's easy. It's simple, not hard, when you're feeling fired up. But you really see great results in those moments when you don't want to do it, but you get it done anyways. And you tell yourself, hey, I'm a person who will get creative, who will find solutions. Whereas if you only do it when it feels good, when it's easy, if you always sell yourself short whenever you have an excuse, you're shooting yourself in the foot so bad, you're hindering your progress. So this quote was really top of mind for me.
Very, very well said. And I'm going to jump into my quote here, which is something I came across in a video. It's more so kind of a thought, but it said, I don't care how bad you think your shoes are. There is someone that would kill to walk a mile in yours. So I thought this was really fitting with what Josh was talking about in terms of comparison as the thief of joy. And I feel like, I haven't talked about perspective in a while, but I really do think when something's going on in my life, one of the biggest things I try to do is just think of obviously the things I'm grateful for and just all the amazing things, but also there's also a lot going on in the world. And I try not to always think in a negative sense, but I do find that it is definitely an easy thing to help you just focus on in terms of your perspective and help you realize how great things actually are. And sometimes I feel like we can overthink with the things that are happening. And this is a great example. It's actually a graphic. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. I'll put it on YouTube on the screen there. But it's basically a guy in a really cool sports car looking up at someone in a helicopter saying, I'd love to have a helicopter. And then someone's in a new car looking at that dream car saying, that's my dream car. And then it goes all the way down where you're just always comparing something. The one person who's on a really nice bike, there's someone who's walking and he says, I'd love to have a nice bike. And then there's at the very end, there's a guy in a wheelchair saying, it sure would be nice to walk. And I just thought it was so important because this graphic specifically just showcases all the different levels of where, you have something really awesome going on. Let's say you have an amazing new bike, but then you're always comparing it to that really fancy car and you're just unhappy because you're not in that situation, but then you get that really fancy car and then you're looking at someone who has a fancier car. And there's just always going to be levels. There's always going to be just different thoughts going on. And especially if you are a competitive and growth oriented person like myself, I feel like it's just so important to realize there's so much to be grateful for. Perspective is everything, and comparison is the thief of joy. And those are the three things that I got from this photo, but also this little quote as well, and something important to think about on this amazing Monday.
Yeah, now into our thoughts. This was a fun thought I had, and I think this would be a great exercise for everyone listening. So it's to develop the ability to be disliked and free yourself from the prison of other people's opinions. So it sounds a little bit intense, but exercise I have for you, and I definitely recommend writing this down and spending some time to think about it. And I'll share kind of my takeaways there. And is, what are 3 things in your life that you are willing to be disliked for? If you have trouble answering that question, that is a problem. So this sounds crazy. You're like, what do I mean be disliked? But I'll give you my examples, and I think it'll help. And it was funny, like in a car ride, me and my wife were talking about it for like 45 minutes, and we had pretty good discussions. And I think my first example is living fit and like wanting to be healthy. An example of that is there's times I'm in groups, everyone's chilling around doing something. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get my workout in. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, and once again, it's like such a small part of my day, that hour. And I think sometimes when you do that thing, it makes other people feel more guilty about them not doing it. But for me, I really just learned, like, I don't care to be apologetic to that. Or if everyone's getting cake and I'm like, I don't want anything, like sometimes it'll make them feel worse about it. But it's like, why do I need to do something that brings me down to make other people feel better? And I feel like even that in and of itself is freeing, because it really makes you feel like in those moments, it's easier to say, you know what, I'm comfortable doing this. Like, I've already thought this through. And I know this is something a lot of people will challenge themselves with. And another thing I want to work on that I'm definitely not good at is like being honest when it's hard to be honest, like saying the truth. There was a quote, like, say the truth even when your voice shakes or something. So even I was at the gym the other day, and this individual was saying the only way he got abs was when he would eat chicken, because the chicken sucks out all the fat in your stomach. And it's like, oh, like, it's someone who knows what's going on. It kind of killed me. And sometimes I don't even want to get into the semantics of correcting people and saying, have you researched this? Like, what do you have to back this up? Like, but at the same time too, like, sometimes it's easy just to be agreeable with someone, even though you have such a different opinion. And I'm not saying to get in crazy fights or anything, but I think to stand up for what you care about. For instance, in even going to the Living Fit example, say you're at a family event or something and people say you work out too much, I don't think that's healthy. Instead of being like, oh, maybe, or whatever, and just not going about it. I'm not saying to create a fight, but I think even to say, I actually feel fantastic doing it. I've never been healthier. My markers have been great, but that's fine for you to think that. But like, standing up for what you care about, I think is always a really good thing. Then the other thing for me too is like not just wanting to go with the status quo, being average, making simple decisions, but wanting to do that extra thing and to be exceptional in some of those moments, and to like, anything you do to the best of your ability. That was the other thought I thought about. And it just kind of ended with this exercise of like, by leaning into the willingness to be disliked for something, it'll give you a lot of freedom. So doing this for me was a great, like, just position of clarity. And I think it really just made me feel better about some of these tougher decisions. And I know a lot of people will struggle, especially balancing fitness and social lives. And you can have great balance. And I think even explaining to people and bringing them on your journey, it makes it a lot easier. But I just thought this was a fun little exercise. I would highly recommend trying it out. I'll leave the actual like question and exercise for you in the show notes, so you can go ahead and spend 5 to 10 minutes thinking about it.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think that the Living Fit example is something that holds a lot of people back, especially because if you really do care about what others think. And once again, the point here isn't to be inconsiderate. It's not to, just be like, oh, I'm way better than all of you and, I'm the fittest person in the world, but to just like do what it is that you need to do, but also encourage those around you and be able to stand up for it as well. And once again, I feel like so often people will be on a good trajectory because they've been listening to the Fit, Healthy, Happy podcast. They started, just tracking their workouts, downloading MyFitnessPal and eating well. And then unfortunately, others around them, they start to care a little bit too much, or, they get sidetracked from other family members. And it's such a great exercise. So I'm excited to try that out myself.
Yeah. And even one thing on top of it, if you're ashamed for like what you're doing for the journey you feel good about, and like, that's an issue. You're not going to buy into that journey 100%. Like if you're going to dive into something and you know what you're doing is best for you, you're not hurting anybody else. Like, you shouldn't be guilted for doing the right thing. And these are good realizations to have, because it will help you in those moments of like, instead of just caving, it's easier just to stand on what you believe. And I think explaining it goes a long way too. Like, all the time, like, I haven't had it in a long time, but like with cake, I don't really like cake. I just don't really care, to be honest. And people be like, oh, it's someone's birthday. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm happy. I'm here with them. I'm here to conversate with them. I'm here to give them a gift and be so happy, but it's just not something I enjoy. Like, I just rather have more food. And most of the time people are like, fair enough. And like, it's so easy to take those quick little quips and feel like, oh, this person's judging me so much, but no one cares more than you do about yourself. So it's so much better not to internalize them and change your whole identity and journey because of them. But like when you have these goals, even as we said before, you got to stand on them even when it's hard. So that's where I really like this as well. One more thought there.
Yeah, the one thing I want to improve on is just like creating content that I think will inspire and not really caring about what others think. I think even Josh sent me a video of someone who's like super motivational. He's like, you got to recreate this. And in my head, there was a fear. It's just like, well, maybe maybe people will think I don't know, just all these random thoughts like I'm not as motivational as that guy. And, maybe the old people will be like, what the heck's wrong with this guy? Like, why is he so fired up? Like, it's very easy to have these things. And even myself, as Josh brought up this exercise, I'm like, man. So I kind of trying to get into the root of that. Like, why is it that I'm worried or scared to post something like this? Is it a fear of judgment? And that kind of is one of the things, even just with social media, there's so many negative comments. And anyways, the point of this is just to get you thinking and start to like help you, just make the right decisions. That's going to benefit not only you, but everyone else in the long run, as best as possible. But, yeah, great point there. My main thing here was just obviously working off of that DEXA scan. I said, myself personally, when it comes to goals, the last thing I'll say about it is that I definitely didn't set the right goals. It's been just over 6 months. And, my main thing was just wanting to lose body fat while maintaining as much muscle mass as possible. And while I did that, and I do feel like it worked well, I wasn't monitoring as much as I should have, and my goals actually weren't as specific as they should have been. So going into it, I once again didn't have crazy expectations, but it's one of those things that without having those specific goals and like being as tangible as possible, I feel like there's a few things I let go. There's a few things I slacked off on. Once again, leg training was definitely something I wasn't doing the best in the last little while. I did get a pulled groin, but at the same time, no excuses. There was just a lot that I could have improved on. So I'm really excited for this new goal. And also, once again, I wanted to stress the importance of having a game plan. So that was the main thing that I wrote down is just, I'm so fired up from it. Every workout I'm focused on it. I'm excited to do another one in 12 weeks and see the changes, or at least, just over 12 weeks. And yeah, that's my main thought. So I'm excited to document the progress and take things to the next level.
Yeah, and as we're excited for you to join on board with the Lean and Jack promo, 4 spots. Once again, if you're thinking about it, you deserve it. I want to go ahead and showcase someone who joined our program, who is struggling, who saw incredible results. So who do we have this week, Kyle?
This week we have Ellie, and she is over 10 pounds down. She's stronger. She's more muscular. You can see on the Instagram, as well as just on YouTube if you're watching. There's a photo of her and some of her tips as well. But the best part about her is she's busy. She's a single mom. She's got a lot going on. And once again, like I said for Michelle a couple weeks ago, there's so many different reasons she could just say, well, this whole fitness journey is not for me. I've got a young kid, I've got a lot on the go. Things are challenging. So I'll do it next year. I'll do it the year after. Maybe I'll do it in the future, but she's committed. She's showing up and she's constantly getting her workouts in, doing extremely well with her nutrition and just consistently pushing herself, which is absolutely fantastic. And, even for her, like she probably didn't imagine the results she was able to get before coming into the program. And we're just so proud of her for showing up and for doing the hard stuff consistently on her fitness journey. And we're just getting started. So we're going to keep documenting the progress as we go on. A couple months from now, we'll post it again. And once again, if you want to join us here, do not miss out. We guarantee your results. I promise you, when you come in here, you're going to be blown away at what you can accomplish when you have a game plan, when you have someone that can help you with your goals, accountability, and just telling you the right stuff that you need to hear. We guarantee your results and can't wait to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions for us about what we do, the program, I know it's kind of an umbrella to be like, okay, what does it encompass? But definitely feel free to reach out because I promise you we offer a lot more than you even think we would. We offer unlimited communication. We offer one-to-one video messaging. We offer form checks. We do all of your macros for you, all of your programming, any adjustments that need to be made for when you're on vacation, any changes of planning, we goal set together. Like it is a very in-depth quality program that we built out out over 10,000. We built over 10 years with over 4,000 transformations. I got ahead of myself there. So we love to ramble about the great work we do because we're very proud of it, and we'd love to explain or just really work with you with any questions you may have, because I know it's easy to be like, okay, well, I may be newer to the gym. What about that? And we're happy to say, well, listen, we're here to work with you at any level you're at. Or if it's like I have a really busy schedule, it's like, okay, well, we'll find what success looks like for you in that schedule. And it's about that being all or nothing. Yeah, you might not be able to be in the gym for 75 minutes each day, but maybe 4 times a week we're in there for 45 minutes. We're going to do everything we can in that program to make that count, and then to make sure our time out of the gym is as beneficial as it can be. But anyways, once again, feel free to message us on Instagram, Lean and Jacked, or just shoot us some questions. We're super, super active in the DM, so we're happy to chat with any of you amazing people. Now, into our next question is, should I program scheduled deloads or just go by necessity?
Really great question. And honestly, I'm going to answer it from 2 perspectives. The first one is going to be Gen Pop, a regular human being who's looking to become fitter, who's, just trying to be consistent and get to that next level. And for most people, I would say deloads will naturally be integrated into your life. Now, answering it from a different perspective of like a high level power lifter who has a hard time staying away from the gym and who has a competition coming up, my answer may be a little bit different for that person. But over the years of working with so many different individuals who are just getting started, who are, at that kind of more so middle ground level, like not exactly stepping on stage or not exactly competing for anything, I've noticed a lot of people will just naturally have a deload week integrated. So this is a week where you either don't make it into the gym or you do a certain week of workouts to a lesser degree. Now, the way we like to look at it is called an unload week. So let's say, for example, you happen to be going on vacation and there's just absolutely no way to get into the gym. You're going to be hiking, you're going to Colorado, you're excited, you've got a lot of fun things planned. Awesome. We can use that and incorporate it as an unload week, which will be totally fine. You'll still see great progress over time, and that's awesome. Cottage weeks, similar example. Now, there's a lot of other things people don't think about, such as crazy weeks of work where it's just like you naturally have it integrated in. No matter what you do, it's not going to be possible. And I've noticed that even from working with so many different people, there's just been times where I would have a deload week planned out, like, okay, by week 8 or by week 12, we're going to do it. But then just something goes on, especially sicknesses, I find is like one of the most common ones where we do unfortunately have to take a bit of a step back. And so because you've taken that week a little bit easier, you've done things to a lesser degree, or you've switched your workouts from heavy gym ones to maybe some body weight and lighter ones at home, we're totally fine to just keep pushing forward for another 8 to 12 weeks before we do another one. So for the most part, I would say just like going by feel and going by like life experiences and like life things going on, that is the best way to do it. However, if you're someone who's like ultra consistent and you haven't missed a week, you barely miss days. For Josh and myself, what we typically do is every 8 to 12 weeks, we'll do a deload week where we take what we usually lift and we decrease it by a certain amount. So let's say doing around 70% of what we'd usually lift. And then we just pretty much allow our bodies to go through the motions, to still be active, so to still feel great. And then the next week we jump into it super hardcore and heavy. But that's what we personally do. However, it's very situational based off of your life, how busy you are, what you have going on. And that's my answer for that one.
Yeah, a lot goes into it. I'd say every 4 to 12 weeks for a very experienced lifter, it's worth taking. If you're new to lifting, like 3 or less years, you may not even need them. And I think just being honest with yourself when you need it is great. And if you're someone who's super hoorah and you never want to take them, I find setting them in advance is always good. Like I like to do it every 8 weeks, give or take. And also just be aware of the calendar. Like Kyle said, like I'm like, I have an unload week. I may as well just do it in there and do a couple workouts that aren't as intense or as strict to weightlifting in that week. And obviously it's not as ideal. It's a proper deload where you're doing like about 70% of your weight, taking a set out and really just focusing on pumps and intention and healing. But once again, it really depends. Like, especially if you're doing really light kind of burnout training, you won't need as much as someone who's killing their CNS powerlifting. You're gonna need them a lot more frequently. So a lot goes into this question, but truth be told, the 4 to 12 week rule is absolutely awesome. Take them as necessary. Kyle crushed that one. Now into the third and final question. If you were to be restarting your fitness journey, what would you do differently or change? I feel like I've answered this one a lot. It's just that I wish I got a coach or I got help, because I spent a lot of time researching and trying to learn when I could have just paid someone and known exactly what to do and seen a lot better results faster without doing some silly things. But I'm curious what Kyle has to say, because I feel like I always answer this one.
I'm the exact same way. I remember those specific years, and I just feel like my progress could have been a lot faster. And especially like this is the honest answer, right? Like there's not a whole lot I would have changed. I am very grateful that, I was super active. I started heavy strength training. Like I was pushing myself hard. Like I just remember those days I was doing 5x5s and heavy deadlifts with over 315, like in high school as a beginner. And I'm very grateful for that. I was surrounded and lifting with a lot of intense people. Josh and myself started working out a lot, and very, very grateful. So overall, the one thing I'm really proud of is just like getting in the right environment. And I would definitely not change that, because it was super, super helpful. But I do just know that like, when you're new into it, that's when you can make the most amount of progress. So a lot of people don't realize, but in the first year of lifting, like proper lifting, you can gain by far the most amount of muscle mass. You can gain up to 25 pounds of muscle when you start to do things properly. When you're on a great program, when you're in a surplus, when you're, just doing things properly, like you can do such incredible things. Now, where so many people struggle, and I think I kind of took advantage of it, but I definitely think I could have done better instead of just looking up random workout routines like Steve Cook's bodybuilding routine, like because I was just following a random program of someone who's, potentially using some performance enhancing drugs. Like I was just doing random stuff. So the long story short is most people will go about their journey and they'll waste those years away. 4 years goes in, they haven't put on much muscle, they've been trying to cut, they've been, doing some random things, and it's going to be so much harder to put on muscle to, essentially when you put on more muscle, your metabolism gets increased, you end up looking leaner because you have more muscle mass, and you waste so much time. And I hear a lot of people's biggest regret, and that's why I want to answer this question, is just in their first years of lifting, in their, when they're first serious, they just waste a lot of time, and you can't get those years back. Like, unfortunately, there's just really no way. And you can start to build muscle at a certain point. It gets harder. And especially if you're 5 years in, it's just going to be so much harder. I think the metric, if you've been properly training for a couple of years, is gaining, let's say, around 2 to 4 pounds of muscle per year, like after 5 years. I think it's around that mark. So it's going to be so much harder versus the person who's in their first year of lifting. You can gain up to 25 pounds of muscle. It might be just over 20. And a lot of people waste those first few years. So I just want to stress on that one, because similar to Josh, I really regret that. Obviously, I can't take that back, but the biggest thing is I can help people in this specific scenario and look back on, Kyle as a beginner, or Kyle, for first few years, like what would I change? What would I optimize? And a lot of what we've done has just been truthfully trial and error and learning along the way. So I try not to have any regrets, because there's been things I've done where I've just, I've messed up a few times, I hurt my shoulder, but at the same time, like I wouldn't change a whole lot. Like I probably would have done less bench pressing at the time and not done it 3 days in a row, but life goes on. And I think the biggest thing I hear from us, but also a lot of other people, is just not having the proper guidance. And usually you don't realize until it's too late. Like if you're 1 or 2 years of lifting, you're probably not going to realize like, oh, I should have got a coach. I should have got a custom program and help with my nutrition. But just so many people struggle with this. Even those who should be gaining muscle end up trying to focus on having abs just way too much. And then they don't allow themselves to be in a proper scenario to set themselves up for success. So anyways, that's why reach out to us for this promo. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but we're so passionate about it. It's the only thing you're going to hear us talk about. We're not going to be talking about athletic greens next episode and then this supplement you should be taking. Like, you will only hear us talk about coaching because we firmly believe it. So send us a message with the keyword lean and jacked. 4 spots available, and we can't wait to help you out. And anything else, or should I close it out?
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Please share this episode with a friend. We're looking forward to hearing from you on Instagram, and thank you for spending time with us today. See you in the next one.